Hello and welcome to the home of the Ghost Owl. So we've completed our look at all of the individual units in the Dwarven Mountain Holds, and we've looked at the sort of the generic faction rules. We're now going to look at all the different runes. So first up is the weapon runes. So let's take a look and see what different runes there are and which ones stand out as being good in my own opinion. So first up we need to consider the rules of runes, which is no single item can have more than 3 runes. No item can have a rune that is not intended for that item. No 2 runic items in your army can be identical. Each master rune may only be chosen once per army. And only runes marked with an asterisk can be duplicated on the same item, combining together and increasing the effect. Some runes are noted as single use and therefore can only be used once per game. So first up is the Master Rune of Smiting. So the weapon gains multiple wounds d6. This is the most expensive weapon rune, and it is pretty expensive. I'm not a huge fan of multiple wounds d6 because that can be anything from 1 to 6, averaging 3 to 4 wounds, which is okay. But for the expense of that cost of that weapon rune, not necessarily something that I'm going to be jumping at to get. Next up is the Master Rune of Scalf Blackhammer. Now this weapon will always wound on 2+ regardless of target toughness. Now this is a master rune that I like. Wounding always on a 2+. I think that's absolutely great. You're maximizing. If you're going to put this on a high end character who's going to have pretty high weapon skills, you're going to normally be getting nearly all of your hits through. So to then have wounding on 2+, you're going to be getting nearly all of your wounds through, which is really going to then put the pressure on saves. So if you are going to spend big on a weapon rune, then I would prefer the Master Rune of Scalf Blackhammer to the Rune of Smiting. Next up, though, is the Master Rune of Alaric the Mad. So no armor saves allowed against this weapon. Order regeneration saves can be made as normal. So not a bad option if you're putting this on a character that doesn't have much AP to start with. So that can basically eliminates the need for it. So it's not bad. It's not crazy expensive either. I think though there are better ones for the dwarves overall, but it's certainly not a bad choice. No armor saves. Now the Master Rune of Dragon Slaying. So this weapon will always wound troop type Behemoth on 2+ regardless of toughness. So this is basically a obviously cheaper option of the Scalf one, but only on Behemoth. So again, that makes it quite situational. What if if you're building catch-all armies, which is generally what I build. I like to build an army list that I can play anyone against. Turning up at a local club or store, and someone's ready for a game. You go, yeah, let's have a game, and not tailor my army to the opponent in that way. It means that, if they don't have any Behemoths, this is a waste of time. You've paid points for it. So I don't generally like things that are so situational in that regard. Even if they do have Behemoths, you've got to get your character in combat with that Behemoth. So not a huge fan of that one. Master Rune of Flight. So this is hand weapons only, and once per turn you can throw your weapon in the shooting phase. So you've got a 12-inch range, strength as a user, and AP 0. So magic attacks, move and shoot, quick shot. Again, not a huge fan of this. The damage it's going to do, is it really worth it? It just doesn't seem like you're getting value for your points out of this one, like in terms of how often you're actually going to be really worth it. This one, however, Master Rune of Swiftness, is probably my favourite of the Master Weapon runes. The wielder gains strikes first. I think that's huge. It's very cheap. In fact, it's the cheapest of the Master Weapon runes. It's my favourite of the Master Weapon runes, and that's mainly due to the low Dwarf initiative. Overall, Dwarves don't have very high initiative. The ability to strike first is key in the game because it's all about attacks back after that. You striking first, so how many attacks are you going to suffer back? You want to hit first. So I think this rune is great, and the fact it's the cheapest of the Master runes. So a really good one. Master Rune of Breaking, so any magic weapon carried by an enemy that suffers 1 or more unsaved wounds is destroyed, and cannot be used for the remainder of the game. Also the joint cheapest master weapon rune. Again, this one for me is situational. Yes, if you get into a duel, it has value. I mean, it's nice you destroy a magic item, but ideally if you're in combat with that person, you're going to kill them or he's killing you. So, you're really only getting value from this if he kills you but you wound him first, because then he's lost his magic weapon. Or by destroying his magic weapon, he can't kill you, for example. But that's very situational again. And I just generally don't like spending points on situational stuff for the way that, I'm playing my games, which is a catch-all. So, not a big fan of that one, especially not when, for the same points, I can have Master Rune of Swiftness. Okay, so then we've moved on to the normal weapon runes, away from the master ones. Rune of Parrying. Enemy models suffer a -1 to hit in the combat phase. I mean, that's okay. Reduces your incoming damage. Rune of Banishment. Enemy models with the Warp Spawn special rule cannot make ward saves. Situational, so not a fan of that one. Rune of Fury. Wielder gains +1 to their attacks. I think this is good. And again, it's *1, so you can take more than one of these. That does start to get expensive, but, the dwarves don't have huge amounts of attacks, so... and only the Slayers are taking additional hand weapons, really. So, not a bad option. Grudge Run. Wielder may re-roll a single to hit roll of 1 during the combat phase. And again, you can take multiple of these, but not a huge fan of that one. Rune of Might. Now, I really like this one. This is, just a flat +1 strength. Again, you can take more than one. But, it's fairly cheap. Getting that +1 strength, that can be really nice, helping out, your basic dwarf if you're not taking the great weapon. You've got your king with a hand weapon and shield for the durability. Same as the Thane, if he's a battle standard bearer and, you want him to at least do a little bit of damage because he's going to be in the front rank. So Rune of Might, a solid choice. Rune of Cleaving, hand weapon, improves AP by 1. This, when you think about the models you might want to put weapon runes on, most of them have got Gromril weapons, right? So, you got the Gromril weapons, which is going to give you the AP of -1, but you don't get that if you've got a rune on it. So, the choice, most of the things I say is going to have Gromril weapons on it. So, Rune of Cleaving, not one that I particularly like. Rune of Striking, +1 to its weapons skill. Again, dwarves have pretty decent weapon skill by and large for the big characters you want to put these things on. So, maybe if you're trying to buff up a champion in a unit, these sort of cheaper runes can have value. But weapon skill isn't the first thing I'd be looking to improve. Rune of Fire, flaming attacks, again, situational if you're going to get the benefit of that. Rune of Speed, though, again, really cheap. Hand weapon only, but the wielder gains +1 initiative. And as we've said, dwarf low initiative, so this is, again, mitigation, and it's super cheap. So Rune of Speed, again, something I like. So, if we're looking at, you've got to try and think about mitigating the weaknesses, I think. Which initiative strikes first is always good. Additional strength, always good. Additional attacks, always good. Situational stuff, not so much. So there you go. That's a quick run through of the weapon runes, what they do, and which ones I think have good value for their points. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comments down below. And as always, if you want to see more content, hit that subscribe button. Free for you to do. It means a lot for me. So thank you for that in advance. And thank you to those who have already subscribed. You've been watching The Ghost Hour. Tune back in for the next episode where we take a look at the armor runes.